can. My name is Beth Hutton. This year I am the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Lake County. Our President, Phyllis Wilcox, is going to be timing tonight. Vicki Nadzik, one of our members, is going to be timing as well. My husband is going to be collecting the questions in the question box. A lot of you have already been adding questions back there, which is fantastic. My problem is going to be we're going to have 2 sets, and so I'm going to have to pick through, if they're for school board, to try to find the ones for the city issues and candidates. But that's okay. We do not have a flag in here, but I do have my little flag-like decoration. So if we would stand, please, and look at that and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First of all, I'd like to thank the Perry Library for inviting us to be here tonight, and for all the candidates who have agreed to be here, and certainly for our audience. We were recalling that a year ago we were here to do another event, and it was so snowy that we barely got home. So we had about 10 people in the audience. So it's nice to look out and see so many of you, and especially our student group who's here to learn about the civic process. We really appreciate that. I taught middle school for 20-some years, and I always demanded respect of my students. For fellow students, I am asking the same of you tonight. If you have a favorite candidate, that's great, but we just clap, and you know, we're nice to everybody, and I'm sure the candidates will also be respectful of each other. Our first speaker tonight will be for the safety levy, and it's Mr. Matt Sullivan. 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Sullivan. I'm a resident, a business owner. I coached football in this town for 12 years. I'm also a builder, as long as, you know, a lot of people, you guys know I own Giorgio's with my wife, Margaret, who I see here. I'm glad she came. I was approached about this levy issue, and I jumped at it because being a part of being the owner of Giorgio's for the years that we were in operation, when the sheriffs were not patrolling our streets, that location, Sheets in general, was like the Wild Wild West. There was crime, theft, drugs, people doing drugs, people selling drugs, and violence, and it was nasty. I had a hard time with that, you know, being a part of owning a business. You know, we took pride in giving back to the community, the veterans, the schools, first responders, churches. We were all in for that. But my biggest responsibility was my employees, which I'm proud to say there was over 500 high school students that went through there in the 10 years, pretty much their first time job. And it was a challenge when there was no sheriff's patrol in the area at night. I had to go up there because the kids and the managers were afraid to actually leave that store here in Perry Township. So, was it almost 2 years later when the state funded patrolling back in the township, those sheriffs cleaned everything up. It made it safe. And that was great. So I went around and talked to some business owners, and I apologize if some of you guys are here. I didn't talk to you yet, but I laughed with Karen. I said, I'm batting 1,000. You know, every business owner sees the, is that 30 seconds left? Yeah. Okay. Holy cow.
3 minutes goes quick.
Everyone loves it. Everyone wants it. Everyone has families. for the safety of your families, to have the patrol, keeps our streets safe and our neighborhoods safe. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Titus had planned to be here tonight, but he got held up at work. Not held up as in a robbery, thankfully. And so he apologizes, he can't be here tonight. So our first office will be for Perry Township Trustee. They drew cards to see who goes first, and we will hear first from Christine Page.
Okay, first and foremost, you civics students, civics was my favorite class, and look at me go. Hi there, my name is Christine Page. I'm running for election as your next Perry Township trustee. I hope that you'll indulge me for a few minutes while I talk about myself and why I'd like to be the next Perry Township trustee. I'm hopelessly humble, but I've embarked on a journey that requires me to pass on information, wisdom, and my big ask. So here goes. So I've been a public servant for most of my career, and I'd like to help you understand why it's important for me and why I'm uniquely suited for public service. When I was young in the 60s, my sisters and I were placed in foster care for about 2 years by the Lake County Protective Services. After those 2 years, we were reunited with my dad. 6 years later, we were in court again as my parents fought over custody of us in the Lake County court system. At those proceedings, the judge and those public servants in the child welfare and court systems listened to each of us and made decisions for us that were ultimately in our best interests. At that point, I was 13, and those interactions changed me. From those experiences and from an incredibly grateful place, I became determined to work in legal and public service to do whatever I could do with my life to make things better for others. In the years that followed, I graduated high school and immediately went into the legal field. I worked for several attorneys in personal injury, criminal, domestic relations, corporate, estates, and guardianships. 7 years after I graduated high school, I took a job with the judge who set me on a course of dedicated public service, Judge Ross D. Avalone. That job gave me the experience and the knowledge to take on the position as the fiscal officer of Perry Township in 1992. While I continued to work in the legal field for many years as probate and domestic relations paralegal. Today, I've now worked for you, the people of Perry Township, protecting, managing, and earning interest on your tax dollars while managing the administration office systems, processes, and staff for nearly 32 years, while raising a daughter and caring for our Century home. It's been known as the Peterson House, Peterson Home, and Fuller Farm. Most of you who are a little bit older will know it as the Fuller Farm. All of my work through the last year, through 2022, has now been audited by the State Auditor of Ohio with excellent results. Through all of these years, I have been part of building the culture in our local government that demands integrity, transparency, fiscal and personal responsibility, dedication, and commitment to working in the best interests of our residents and this community. Oh, 30 seconds, wow. Okay, so in Perry Township, we're fortunate that we don't currently have struggles with our services and our government. We have solid public officials, department heads, and township employees. Perry Township operates transparently and within our means financially. I'm here to ask you to vote for me to be your next Perry Township trustee. I'd like to help to maintain engagement, Township's engagement with the schools and the rec program to ensure that our kids can grow up safely. Thank you. Awesome.
It goes real fast.
It goes really fast.
It does.
It's amazing how short 3 minutes can be, or how long if you're in a bad situation. Our second contestant, if you will, candidate for the position of Perry Township trustee is Mr. Dan McGarry.
Come on down. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. 3 minutes will go quick. So because we have a rebuttal, you may hear some more from me in the second part, but let me just introduce myself. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and cherished members of the Perry community. First, I'd like to extend my gratitude to the Lake County League of Women Voters for organizing this candidate forum. It's a privilege to be here, and I am grateful to the Perry Public Library for hosting and streaming this live event. So if you couldn't be here in person in this packed house, thank you for being at home and being involved in Perry. We appreciate it. My name is Dan McGarry, and I've had the honor of calling Perry Township my home for the past 25 years. It's not just an address to me, it's the foundation of my family's life. Today I stand before you not just as a candidate, but as a fellow resident deeply committed to our community and as community's well-being. Some of you may ask, why am I here? Well, Perry Township is more than just a spot on the map. It's a vibrant community with a 208-year history. It's where my wife and I chose to raise our family, watch our children grow, celebrate milestones. Our township values its history, but we also must be prepared for the future challenges. I am here to ensure that Perry remains a great place to work, raise a family, and foster a sense of togetherness. My vision. Well, I envision a Perry Township that not only values its past, but also embraces the future. We must promote policies that encourage responsible commercial growth, diversifying our tax base while preserving Perry's cherished rural character. With over 3 decades in business, I understand the importance of responsible leadership, fiscal prudence, and the effective decision-making. I aim to bring transparency to our local governance, ensuring that our community's voice is heard and valued. But as you know, no individual can transform a community alone. It requires collaboration, shared vision, and inclusivity. I believe that harnessing collective wisdom of our community to drive positive change, by working together, we can address long-standing issues with innovative solutions, ensuring that Perry Township remains a beacon of prosperity and unity. I am not just your candidate, I am your neighbor, a fellow parent, and a business owner deeply invested in Perry's potential. I humbly ask for your support, trust, and vote. Together, let's make Perry Township an even better place for all of us. I thank you for listening to why I want to be your guide, your advocate, and your Perry Township trustee. Thank you.
At this point, I want to say there is a third candidate for this position, and that is Mark Welch. He texted Phyllis just before the meeting and said he wasn't feeling well and didn't want to share his germs. So I'm sure you join me in hoping that he recovers quickly from whatever he has. Now each of the 2 candidates who are here will have 2 minutes of rebuttal. Ms. Page?
After you, darling. Now you can rebut.
Now I can read.
Just tuck it.
Now you can do the rest.
No, I already did that.
If you think 3 minutes went fast.
2 minutes goes even faster. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the bottom of all of this. I want you to know that a vote for me is going to help you to maintain our engagement in the schools and the Perry Joint Rec District. It will also help the township's engagement with our senior citizens by continuing to happily provide our senior and community center for programming and socialization and their daily needs, as well as safe transportation through Lake Tran. I ask you to vote to help so that we can manage the residential growth according to our longstanding comprehensive plan and maintain the rural character of this community. I also ask you to vote for me so that we can find a way to encourage growth of our commercial district, to grow its tax base through economic development to help lighten our load as residential taxpayers for the needs for our needs in this community for years to come. I appreciate the time that you've given me today. I look forward to being able to serve you in a different capacity. I've done this for a long time. I've just done something different for a long time, and I hope that you'll vote for me for Perry Township Trustee on November 7th. Thank you.
Mr. McGarry will have 2 minutes.
Well, good evening, everybody. So you got my little nervous first 3 minutes, so I appreciate you bearing with me. Some of you know me, some of you don't know me. But I wanted to talk to you about my involvement in Perry politics, which clearly Chris has been the fiscal officer 32 years, and I appreciate that. You know, my wife works part-time at the township. We've raised our 5 daughters here. I've paid for 3 weddings. In college, I have 2 more daughters who haven't been married. Well, we've had the luxury of not only, we've had the luxury of great neighbors. And so Kelly said Rick was retiring, and maybe I should look into being township trustee. I've been going to every meeting since January. The only people who go to that meeting are me and Larry Reichert. And Larry's here somewhere. He's another pillar of the community. But someone has to get involved. And I'm at the perfect age. I have the perfect career. I'm in real estate now. I've done mortgage for the last 20 years. And in those jobs in mortgage, I've worked for $5 million companies a month to $100 million companies a month. My main job at these companies was to increase productivity while at the same time leaning out the company to reduce expenses. And I want to bring that fresh approach to Perry Township. Now is the time for me to step up and do something for my community. I've had the blessing of raising my children, go through these school systems and be great great citizens, but I couldn't have done that without the Perry community and all that it offers. And I want to ensure that's not only here for my grandchildren, but for anyone else's grandchildren going forward. So I am looking for your vote, and I would appreciate your confidence in me. And if you have any questions, just like Chris, we both have websites. You can contact us both. If you have questions or you want to know more about us, please reach out. That's what we're here for. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Our next office is for Perry Township Fiscal Officer. And Stephanie Parker is unopposed, so assuming she votes for herself, she will win. But I appreciate the fact that she's willing to come here and put herself out to let you know who she is and what she wants to do. So Stephanie will only have 3 minutes since she's unopposed.
My name is Stephanie Parker, and I am running for the Perry Fiscal Officer. Can you hear me?
No.
Okay. This one? This one? Can you hear me? Okay. And so I have been a resident for 10 years. As you can hear, that I probably have a little bit of a southern accent. I moved here from Texas when I got married, and I have an undergraduate degree in accounting. I have worked for 25 years in both accounting and finance positions. I worked my way up to an AVP of finance and managing budgets from as low as $500,000 up to probably closer to $20 million. So I am looking forward to serving you while I am unopposed. I do feel like I have big shoes to fill after a person that's been in the role for 32 years, but I am looking forward to kind of making my stamp on the position and looking forward to all of your input as well as we can move forward with Perry and make it a better community every day. Thank you.
While Bruce goes to get the box, let me explain to you how this will work. Again, questions have gone in for both school board and for the township positions. So if I pull a question out and it's school board, I will set it aside and then I'll put it back in the box for the next round. I know that there are more questions than we will have time for, so don't get mad at me. I'm not looking at the questions in advance. I'm pulling them out blindly. Okay. All right. School board? School board? Are they all school board questions before I go?
There might just be a theme.
So far, they're all school board.
Let's get a Levy question.
So you're all breathing a sigh of relief up here.
Oh, good, no questions.
School board. I have a feeling they're all school board.
Lucky you. That's how it was at Concord Levy.
Was that bad?
No, oh, thank you. Thank you. School board.
I'll answer what's your favorite color.
Yep.
my favorite pizza, Georgia.
All right, here's one for Christine Page. And so, of course, her opponent will have a chance to answer as well after Christine. You have stated in your mailing that you will solidify Perry's commercial tax base. What do you plan to do differently that has not been done yet? So as soon as I get my stuff out of your way, Christine will have 2 minutes to answer, and then Mr. McGarry will have 2 minutes. Thank you. I'll leave it up here so you can refer to it.
All right, so the comprehensive plan for Perry Township that was adopted in 2015, one of the key features of it noted building the tax base, the commercial tax base in this township to support this community so that we don't have to support it on the backs of residential. We have a joint economic development district. We have an economic development council. We need to engage them harder. They are working, they are doing, they have developed or redeveloped, added more infrastructure to the Lane Road corridor, but we need to open that up. We have property all along Route 20 that goes from Lane Road to Call Road, and all of it is basically grass that we mow. That land needs to be engaged for commercial development, and that commercial development will generate income tax for this community, and that's what we need to get in the bank so that we can pay taxes, so that you and I don't need to continue to pay more in our real estate taxes. Our commercial tax base should cover this. It absolutely should. And I just need to engage. I want to be part of engaging the Economic Development District and the JED to work harder. They need to work harder. They've been in place for a long time. They need to work harder. That's my answer.
I appreciate it. So this is a question, I think, and again, most of the topics you'll see either on my website or Chris's. The problems, whether you're in Painesville, whether you're in Perry, whether you're in Concord, are all similar. Costs are going up, and we're trying to figure out how to pay for it. And like most of you, everything's getting more expensive. We don't want to pay it off the backs of our own taxes. In the jobs that I've had, my position was an outside salesperson. So I had to go out and generate new business with, when I was in lending, with realtors, with title companies, with builders. And Christine hit it on the head. It's not actively being done. We've got property, we've got the JED, we've got all these things, but no one's actively doing it. And the skill set that I have is equipped for that. I've been doing it. I've been putting the work in the private sector. Now I want to bring it to the public sector. Because the reality of it is, the JED can only generate so much income. If you don't know, a township really doesn't get a lot of income. We don't get payroll tax. We can't do a lot of things. So really the only way we can lower a tax base, which we probably will never lower a tax base unless we get crazy commercial infrastructure. Because two things are certain that I've noticed. Taxes and insurance never go down. My principal and interest is the same, again, my mortgage background. So what I'm basically coming back to is similar to what Chris said. This is what I've been doing. This is what I do. So I'm going to give it a fresh look and actively get out there and pursue businesses in here so we don't have to put another police levy or another levy for seniors, for the seniors, or for the Perry Rec to try and help them fund. We have these wonderful services in this community. We have wonderful neighbors. That's what attracted my wife and I here. We could have moved anywhere. My family grew up in Lyndhurst. Her family grew up in Madison. But we ended up here because we really love Perry. And I want to maintain that culture and that lifestyle, but without some more commercial infusion of cash, we're not going to be able to do it. So that's my 2 cents, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, I would like you to join me in thanking these 4 individuals for coming here tonight, for sharing their insights, and we will have them step away, and we will have the candidates for school board come forward, please.
I'm gonna take my card.
It's the only perk you get out of this.
Someone's got good penmanship, and it's not me.
Right?
Yeah, I'm taking my wallet card.
Because you already got in that.
Yep, you can take them
Oh, I
if you
took
want.
it.
Yes, you may certainly have it.
Do you guys need any help with anything?
Here in alphabetical order. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There you go.
Yeah, you're
I'm gonna
right
fall
there.
right through. Thank you.
That's, I can see water going right there.
Sean, should we ignore this mic? Should I kind of?
You can just honestly swap them if you want, or you can keep doing the holding it. Fine by me. I'm not sure what it looks like.
Okay, I'll put it in here. And if you want to remove it, you can. Okay, we have 4 candidates, as you can see, for school board. There are 2 open seats. So you will select 2 of these lovely ladies to vote for. I haven't done the drawing for their order yet. Hold on. The low card is going to go first. Okay, what numbers do we have? 7, 5, 2. Okay, so almost in order. All right, so Jennifer is first, Kathleen is second. Janice is third, and Nicole is fourth. Okay, thank you. We always do the drawing just because some people like to go first, some people like to go last, and I don't want anybody mad at me. It's all by luck. So our first speaker this evening will be Jennifer Grega, did I say? Grega. She has 3 minutes to begin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Grega. I am a transplant, essentially, to Perry, moving here in 2015. A little bit about who I am. You might have seen it on the website, might have seen a little bit on our Perry Facebook community group. I moved here from Youngstown. It's originally where I was born and raised. I'm a single mother, raised by my grandparents. The only reason I have had success in my life has been education. I chose to become a teacher. I chose to follow that passion because of my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Dinda, who saw something in a little girl who knew what it was like to be on food stamps, who knew what it was like to have free and reduced lunch, to have parents or have children tell her she didn't have a father, to have children tell her, even at a Catholic school, because that's where I went for 12 years, that she didn't have a family in the traditional unit. I was raised in the 80s, so time and place. That is something that to me is unacceptable in an educational environment. I do understand bullying happens and all the other ways that we brush it aside, but in education, I want our children to be comfortable, to feel like that is their safe place where they can express themselves, learn about themselves, and grow. When my husband and I got married, at that point, I had moved all around the world. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. I have been blessed to serve this country's great veterans, their dependents, and their survivors for 17 and a half years. It is a calling that I took through public service because I didn't want to tear each other down over inside politics or some large DC conglomerate that doesn't care about who we are or what we do in this town. I chose education. I've been able to educate veterans, their survivors, their dependents in 5 different countries in 23 different states. Every single day in our great nation, I know that someone is being served because I taught them how to do the position we did. Now, do I miss teaching 4th through 9th grade English and history? Heck yes, every single day. When I looked at my husband when we were going through IVF, I said, you know what? If I don't get the chance to be a mom, I'm gonna go back to teach because that's where my passion was. After 6 years, we have a set of twins that are 7 and a half now and a 5-year-old little boy, all of who might drive everyone crazy in these halls in Perry, but they love being in this school system. We chose and moved here when we knew our IVF had been successful because of this community. We had a lot of different choices. My husband has his real estate license. We looked at a lot of different places, but everything kept drawing us back here. I want the chance to be able to help. Because of my position and honestly my career, I get to help so many people during the day, but I want to help your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors. And I can do that by working my butt off for the school board. And I promise you, if you give me your vote on November 7th, I will do that. Thank you very much.
The second candidate to speak for school board is Kathleen Scioli.
Good evening and thank you for attending. Thanks to the Lake County League of Women's Voters for hosting this event to help inform voters about candidates in the upcoming election. I'm Kathleen Scioli and I'm a candidate for Perry Local School Board of Education. I'm the proud mom of 2 high school alumni from Perry. Elena graduated in 2019 and my son Dominic graduated in 2023. And I currently have my youngest that's a middle schooler at Perry Middle School, Liana. I've been married to my husband Chris for 25 years. For 9 years we lived out of state for graduate school and work. This allowed me to learn about education in several states and gave me a great variety of work experience. When a new job brought us back to Ohio in 2008, we chose Perry for our hometown over other area schools based on outstanding academic performance. School facilities, faculty, staff, and leadership, as well as this amazing community. As a member of our hometown school board, I would seek to build upon and advance this tradition of excellence. After earning a bachelor's degree in education, I began my professional career as a classroom teacher. I taught for over 10 years in grades pre-K through 8th grade in 3 different states. When I decided the time was right for me to leave the classroom, I went on to work for the Ohio Department of Education for 4 years as a regional specialist, helping 34 school districts in Northeast Ohio to drive higher standards, improve teacher effectiveness, and use data to inform instruction, as well as adopting new strategies. When this grant program with the ODE ended, I was sought out to support school districts in adopting data and assessment software that would improve the school's academic success. Eventually, I was promoted to Director of Client Success for this educational technology company and led a team of 14 client success managers, providing me with additional educational insights from dozens of different states. I went on to earn a master's degree in educational technology and have enjoyed a second career for over a decade as a leader in education, with the opportunity to work with hundreds of school districts across the country and currently globally. These experiences helped me learn from the successes and failures to bring valuable information right back here to our hometown school district. My flexible work schedule has also enabled me to volunteer in Perry schools, classrooms weekly, giving my time and education experience to help support teachers and student instruction while staying aware of the day-to-day classroom successes and challenges. As a parent volunteer, I applied for and won a competitive grant funding, and my husband and I both volunteered and carried out this 6 weeks hands-on learning experience in chemistry for 38 cognitively gifted students in Perry schools. I volunteered to serve on the Perry Library Board for over a decade, leading therein as the current chair of the Staff and Salary Review Committee for the past 7 years. As a member of this board, I've been involved with ensuring that library administration and staff deliver value to the community. Thank you so much.
Our third, our third speaker will be Candace Richards.
Good evening. I would like to extend my appreciation to the Lake County League of Women Voters for assembling tonight's candidate forum. My name is Candace Richards. I've been fortunate to have been raised in Northeast Ohio and a graduate of Perry High School. I'm also raising 4 sons as proud pirates. People have asked me why I'm so passionate about running for the school board. My answer is because I sincerely love our Perry community and our schools. I've always been active in our community and school district, and as much as I'd like to stand here and share my full resume with you tonight, we are granted only a short time, so please feel free to visit my website or my Facebook pages to learn more about me. As a pirate, I grew up believing that I went to the best school. When I became an adult, I realized that I just no longer just believed this, but it was true. I knew it. I am a very proud Perry pirate. I understand and respect our past history, and I'm very aware of our current dynamics. I want to preserve the tradition of excellence by keeping Perry strong. As a dentist and a small business owner, I have many strengths that transfer from my professional career that would make me an effective board member, such as being able to research, interpret data, create strategic plans, and being an advocate for others. I intently listen to my patients while protecting their privacy, and I will do the same for our concerned parents and taxpayers. I take fiscal responsibility very seriously, and I will ensure our precious tax dollars are managed wisely. I'm able to adapt and adjust my approach as new information is learned. I'm not afraid to ask hard questions or spark discussions that are needed. I believe in being proactive and not reactive, and that we should be actively looking for ways to remain financially strong. I promise to set the bar extremely high for our administrators and will hold them accountable. I will support our teachers and staff by ensuring they have the resources to meet the unique needs of every student. As a daughter of a retired Perry elementary teacher, I grew up helping my mom in her classroom, and I saw firsthand how our teachers and staff, how hard they work. We must provide our employees a professional culture where they can work efficiently and know that they can be impactful. It's essential that our students, faculty, and staff feel safe and comfortable at school. Their health and wellness will always be my priority. We must always ensure that our anti-harassment policies set forth by the Board of Education are fully enforced. We must make every effort to provide opportunities for our students to feel connected to their peers, their teachers, their advisors, their coaches, to reduce the feelings of anxiety and conflict. We must continue to strive to provide unique learning opportunities to prepare all students for a strong future. My goal will be to build upon an educational culture that recognizes the divine nature and individual worth of each student and an employee in our district, and create policies that empower them to reach their greatest potential. I look forward to working with the members of the school board by adding a new, fresh perspective. I stand before you as a candidate that possesses the skills and qualities necessary to be an effective board member, and I humbly ask for your support by voting for me at the polls. Thank you.
Our fourth speaker will be Nicole Trevsker. Did I get that right?
You did a good job, yeah,
All right.
that's a tough one. Hello, my name is Nicole Trevsker, and I'm seeking re-election for the Board of Education. I currently sit as the Vice President of the Board. I have a bachelor's degree in Business Administration and a master's degree in Early Childhood Education. My husband and I moved our family to Perry in 2013, in large part because of the strength and reputation of Perry schools. I have 4 children in the district, 2 in the high school, 1 in the middle school, and 1 in the elementary school. I am honored to have been selected to serve the community as a member of the Board of Education for the past 4 years. I have a strong understanding of the roles and responsibilities of a board member and respect the limitations of the position. It is a very team-oriented position, as individual board members hold no authority on our own. Our job is to set policy, encourage communication, and advise the superintendent as representatives of the community. We are responsible for approving the budgets and maintaining the fiscal health of the district. We do not get involved in the day-to-day decision-making in the district, nor are we involved in staff evaluations aside from the superintendent and treasurer. At the center of each and every decision that I make is the question, what is best for the kids? The students in our district, their safety and education are my first priority. I want to keep the focus on education and away from political issues that have caused divisiveness in other districts. By focusing on education, we can ensure that our students continue to have access to the best educational and extracurricular opportunities. We have added a significant amount of programming that benefits our students over the last several years. Programs such as the House Flip Project, the STNA program, internship programs, Perry Service Learning, which now extends down through the elementary school, the addition of an on-site welding lab, and other career and college readiness programs give our students the tools they need to continue to be successful beyond the walls of Perry schools. The elementary and middle school both have added authentic learning programs, allowing kids to learn in the environment that best suits their needs and learning styles. To be able to support offering so many personalized learning experiences to our students in such a small school is something that as a board member I'm so proud of, and as a parent I'm very grateful for. I believe that each and every student should have the same access to opportunities, and that no student is more important than the next, regardless of their last name, how long they've lived in Perry, or how involved their parents are. I believe that as a board member, I have a responsibility to the community to make choices in their best interest as taxpayers, Through the proactive planning of the boards that have gone before me, as well as the current board, we have not had to go to the community for a levy in nearly 50 years. We continue to carry a strong cash balance and work to make the hard decisions that keep us financially healthy. Being a school board member is a selfless position where you are called upon to represent everyone, even those whose values and priorities do not necessarily align with your own. It is not a position for pursuing individual agendas. I do not make decisions based upon the needs of myself, my children, or my friends, but for the community and student body as a whole. Perry is a great community. Many of our students return to make it their home as adults. Strong schools will help our students develop into active and productive members of society, which will in turn keep our community strong. I appreciate your support and vote.
Each of the candidates will now have 2 minutes for rebuttal in the same order in which they spoke. So, Jennifer Gregg.
First, I just want to thank you all for coming and for everything that the other 3 women on this panel have said. No matter who you decide to vote for, your students and this community are going to be in great hands. The reason I chose to run is not for any adversarial nature of anyone with the board. In fact, I was remiss at the beginning to not thank them for everything that they have done because, as Nicole said, it is selfless. In fact, my very first experience in this community was with one of those board members. I had a 3-month-old child, and my twins were twin talking to each other, and we couldn't get any speech out of them, even going through Cleveland Clinic speech therapy twice a week. Even though I just shared their HIPAA provisions, I'm pretty sure they're okay with it. But one of the current board members spent over an hour and a half with my husband and I telling us it was okay that we were scared, that we were unsure of what was going to happen for them going into preschool. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to take that time out of her day, her schedule, the million other things she had, but it showed me that the one thing everyone values here is education. Doesn't matter what our differences are, we have that similar bond of knowing what's important, setting our children up for success. She doesn't know it, but that changed my whole experience of being new here in Perry. And I took that with me. I'm sorry. The 3 things I have set forth on my webpage, if you have been able to visit it, are 3 goals: advocacy, responsibility, and partnership. I heard it with the trustees, and I feel the exact same way. My husband has a small woodworking business. Before COVID, I was starting out to do wedding and family photography. My business doesn't work anymore. His still does. In fact, if you ever have any questions and you're driving down South Ridge Road, you'll see what looks like a big blue thumb. That's his woodworking business. Stop by, get eggs from our chickens, ask me questions, and I'll tell you how I think we can advocate for everyone. We do have the responsibility to do it together and to make a partnership with businesses to improve our schools, to give our children opportunities like the gentleman who spoke first about our safety levy. We can do that. I will do that. Thank you.
Kathleen Scioli.
So thank you so much, all of the ladies with their wonderful ideas, wonderful contributions, and I agree that the women up here are high quality and would do a great job for our school district. I just want to highlight my priorities, which are continuous improvement. As many of us have mentioned, our district is already excellent. We've had a 5-star rating recently. We have the best teachers in the area, and we retain those teachers, which is very important as a teacher myself. When you learn a curriculum, learning a new way that a school district functions is not an easy task. And so by retaining those teachers, we have teachers who know what they're doing, and most importantly, we have teachers who know and love our children. And that is something that is just invaluable. And also that extends to our leadership. A lot of our leadership have been in positions within the district where they started out as educators. They started out as classroom teachers, and they have worked their way up, whether in our district or out of our district, and then chose to come here as a leadership position within our district. And my feelings are we need to maintain and retain that excellence that we have in our school district. Financial planning is another area that's very important and near and dear to me. Having sat on the library board for the last 12 years, I've been part of budget decisions. I've been part of talks about budget forecasts. And so I understand that when you forecast a budget, there are many variables. No one predicted COVID, which is the last time that we were actually in deficit spending for 1 year in the last decade. And so that financial planning is essential and important to me. And communication. Team-oriented, as I mentioned, I led a team of 14 people doing a client success job. I was their leader. I was their person that they went to for help. And I want to continue communicating with the excellent people we have on the board so that I can advocate for the best things for our children and bring those ideas that I've learned from all over the world to Perry, Ohio. Thank you.
Candace Richards.
There's a couple things that I enjoy talking about. One is teeth and the other is about Perry. And I love that we're all here talking about a town that I love dear to my heart. When I was on the basketball team, Coach Forrest told us that anything worth doing is worth doing well. And that just keeps popping into my head, and I think that's what I can promise you. I know that he would teach us that every foul shot we did, every dribble we take, we had to do it like we were on a championship team in those practices. And that's exactly the same effort that I give as a mother, as a dentist, and any volunteer service that I give. I've helped in numerous ways in our community, and one was the Ritley Run, and that was one that I love because it's like a family reunion for our town. Every year we do that, and for the people to come back and to celebrate what we love about Perry. In running for this campaign, I've been able to talk to a lot of people, and I had a school board member call me to kind of drill me on my thoughts and feelings, and he was a school board member in the 80s. And it was really awesome talking to him. He was telling me about how he was the late 70s, early 80s, and about how when the power plant was coming, about securing the land for the school. And I thanked him. I'm like, thank you so much for your service, because without him being so visionary, I was not able then to walk on down those halls as a first class that went to the new buildings my freshman year. And then for my children to walk down those same hallways. And I want to be that same visionary school board member where we're looking for the future and we're planning for the future, and that we are being responsible with all of our funds. We are so blessed in our city and in our hometown here. And we need to be smart with those decisions. And I'll just leave those with you. Thanks.
Nicole Trefsker also has 2 minutes.
Thank you. So I began serving on the school board in 2019, and before that I had been a substitute teacher throughout Lake County and had the opportunity to see inside many different districts. And I have to say that I loved Perry the best to substitute in, and I think we have the best kids, teachers, administration, etc. Our student population is changing, and I think that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of. Currently in Perry we have a 30% poverty rate. So I think it's important for us to develop programming and do what we can to serve the underserved in our community. We have worked with administration and distributing different people to different positions to ensure that we are able to support all of the needs of all of our students. We have more English language learners this year than we've had before in the past. I've heard talk about dropping our Spanish program, and I just wanted to address that we do have Spanish still available to students from 5th through 12th grade. We did drop it for the 4th grade because we did an audit of the Spanish program, and we didn't need another teacher there. So students are still able in the middle school to get the same amount of Spanish credits for high school as they had been able to get in the past. We actually have such individualized learning opportunities for our kids that we have students taking Mandarin. So there are a lot of different opportunities. But that also allowed us to push PSL down into elementary school. And Perry Service Learning is one of my favorite programs at the school. As far as the 5-year forecast, there's been questions about that as well. That is a planning tool. It is not a plan. It's something we use in order to plan. It is normal in a 5-year forecast for years 3, 4, 5 to show a deficit. We also still carry a currently $26 million cash balance. But it is typical because that is not our plan. That is something we're looking at, that if we do nothing, we are going to be in deficit spending. We are never going to do nothing. We are going to proactively make the decisions as we have been for years. In 2021, we were predicted to be in $1 million deficit this year, and this year we will end in $1 million surplus. So please be assured that we are doing everything possible to be financially responsible for all of our taxpayers and students. Thank you.
Well, seeing as the box was already full of school board questions, I'm sure we're going to have a great time this evening. And I don't know where the box went. So what we will do, we will start out the first question. The ladies will respond in the same order in which they spoke, and then we'll go backwards, and then we'll kind of mix it up a little bit so that the same person doesn't get stuck going first all the time. 2 came out, but the first question is, what are your views on allowing books with sexually explicit material in the libraries and classrooms? So we're jumping right in. Okay. Okay. Saying this, the same order this time.
Do you want me to stay here? Or would you want me to...
No, they want you at the mic.
Okay, that's fine.
2 minutes.
So I feel like it's kind of a hot button issue to talk about what we're going to ban and what we're going to get rid of and what we're going to hide from everyone. And kind of the part of education that really makes everyone special is that there are things that some people enjoy and some things people don't like. I was horrible in math. Absolutely horrible. When I mean horrible, I mean like trigonometry, geometry. No, not my bag. But there are some people who love it. Now, I understand that we're talking about explicit material that most likely isn't going to be in our classrooms or in our library already, because we know we have a high level of excellence and our librarians aren't going to have that type of material out where sensitive eyes can see it. So taking the extreme side that this question is really talking of, there are things in different communities where you meet together and you discuss a topic. What I have seen in the schools that I have worked with in Youngstown, in Canfield, in Maryland, were situations where people were looking to ban items they themselves hadn't even read. So one thing I would ask is, if we are going to ban large swaths of material or even a book in general, that we actually look at it as a community as a whole. Not just maybe a hot button few 3 or 4 pages or one section of a page that might actually not be what we would prefer to read, you know, like that geometry and algebra that I would have to deal with, but might actually be something that makes someone feel seen. Maybe we consider it explicit because it's not our lifestyle, or it's not a choice that we made for ourselves or who we are as a person. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily banned for everyone. That might be something that makes someone comfortable in who they are. So I would ask, if we're going to bring these types of issues, that we would all discuss it in first a calm format, but also in an educated one where you're taking the entire book as a whole instead of 1, 2, or 3 pages. Thank you.
Kathleen has 2 minutes.
So I'll just start with a couple things, highlighting what Nikki Trefsker said. These are those hot button political issues that, yes, they are of a concern. Yes, we need to consider them. But the work of the board, we are out for the best interest of the students. I would say that we have, I'll highlight back those professionals that we have in our community, in our school districts, that know our students. They know what's appropriate for students. They know child development. They know a lot of information, and that information is going to be taken into consideration as they are deciding whether or not a book is appropriate for any grade level or any situation. I'm a proud member of the Perry Public Library Board, and I'm proud to say that we have been able to look at materials and decide. The director does this work, again, the leadership decides what is appropriate to be placed where in the library. And the same thing is true in this situation. If it's not the right content for our children, then our leadership will step in and ensure that those things are not happening. Again, I have that child development background also. I am always aware and overseeing what my daughter is bringing home as a minor child. and just being aware and involved in her activities. So as far as hot button politics, as far as trusting the leadership and knowing my position as a board member, I would definitely raise concern if this was something that was out of the realm of what a child should be exposed to and where the appropriate place to put that would be. But as far as just a general blanket statement about banning anything, I think, as Jennifer said, we need to be informed. We need to make sure that we're not getting caught up in the drama and the excitement that comes on television, and that we're actually looking at the content and making those informed decisions along with the professionals that are trained to do that. Thank you.
Candace?
I absolutely believe that all the media that comes into our schools should be vetted. Absolutely, they should be age appropriate. You know, that includes books, magazines. We do a really good job at Perry with the search engines. I mean, my kids try to type in some things that are not inappropriate, but just because they seem kind of like a similar word, I can't think of an example right now, and it won't let you go through. So Perry's doing a fabulous job with keeping things vetted, keeping, but as far as banning, you know, sexually explicit, is that what the question was? I mean, yeah, if it's not age appropriate, it should be in our schools. There's other places that they can, you know, other libraries and other things, but not in the school. It needs to be, but those things like Kathleen was mentioning about having professionals in our district, they do a good job. And I have one son who's a sophomore in college and went all the way through the system. I have a senior, I have a sophomore, an 8th grader, and I've never seen anything come home that raised any concern for me. But I do think that we need to continue to vet and to have that high standard that we know that things need to be age appropriate for our children in school.
Nicole? And after you answer this question, I'll have you stay up and be first for the next one.
So yes, this is one of those politically divisive issues that comes up, and you can't make a blanket statement about it, and a lot of things, what's appropriate for my child may not be appropriate for your child. As a district, what we've done is we've been completely transparent. Any parent can go online at any time and look and see what books their children have checked out. If they find it's inappropriate, they can come to the administration, address it with the administration, and have a conversation. We are all on the same side, trying to educate children, trying to do what's best for them in an appropriate way, in a healthy way, and meet their needs as much as we can. I hope that answers that. Oh, I stay.
Yeah. And we're going from the frying pan into the fire here.
Yeah.
What are your views on teaching sexual orientation and gender ideology?
My views are that we should focus on education, educating our kids on the state standards, the contents that we have, and focusing on those things. We are busy teaching kids, meeting their needs, and teaching them the basics, the state standards, and the things that we need to do. I know that there's a push that people think we're trying to push all these things on kids, and I can tell you from the teachers I've spoken with, the classrooms I've visited, they are teaching the basics to do what they need to do to get the standards to your kids that they need to get to them. I have children in all 4 schools. If anything ever came through that I was concerned with, I would call my administrators as a parent just like anyone else can. We're always available. Our administrators are always available and open to a conversation. But I do believe that we do what's best for kids, and what's best for kids is meeting the state standards and the things that they need to progress to the next level. Thank you.
Candace?
Yeah, I could just say exactly the same thing that Nikki just said. You know, the main thing is if you're in this community and you saw something that you didn't feel like was appropriate, I want you to make sure that you feel comfortable enough to reach out to any school board member, but you could reach out to me, and you can do it in confidence, and you could explain what you felt. You'll be heard, you'll be respected, and then I will take that, and I will go, and I will carry that through, and I will come back to you. Sometimes I have felt that I've reached out to board members, and that I never heard back. And so I've always wondered, did that question ever go anywhere? And so I want to make sure that you know that if you do come, your child brings something home, or as a student you feel like you're uncomfortable, I want to make sure that you know that I'm a listening ear. I will listen to your concerns, and then we'll go and do it. But as far as I've ever seen as a parent, and even as a student, I've never felt like any of these things have ever been an issue. But I do want people to know that, you know, this is a changing world. this world changes fast, and we know that, right? But I want to make sure that people know that, you know, I'm not trying to say that this is a blanket statement, it's never going to happen. If you do see something, please let us know.
Kathleen?
Again, going back to what the previous lady said, and reiterating the same kind of concept around books and book banning, we teach curriculum in schools, and the curriculum that Perry has adopted does not include these types of things, and so it would really be out of policy for an educator to be stepping out of that box in teaching those things. And so yes, this would be something that would definitely be something to pursue. I am open to receiving questions. Again, I know child development. I have my own child. And the one thing that I will expand upon that I think is very important, having an adult child, having an 11-year-old, and kind of that spanning that great amount of ages, is the one thing that I have grown to learn in my parenting, though, is we do need to have supports available for the children. And so if a child is struggling, we definitely, as a district, have a responsibility to meet that child where they're needed and give them the supports that are appropriate. So we do not turn children away, we do not shame children, and we teach our children to respect everyone, no matter what their differences are. And I think that in this world, we've lost kind of sight of that you can disagree with something and you can hold values near and dear to your heart, but that does not mean that we have to be nasty or hateful to somebody who doesn't support the same things we do. We need to teach our children, and I have tried to instill this in all of my children, that you are kind and compassionate no matter what that person is or does or how they call themselves or see themselves. We owe that, and that's part of humanity, is that we treat everyone kindly, and I would expect that our school districts would have in place those supports to help those children that are going through something like this. Thank you.
And Jennifer.
Okay, so I'm going to take a slightly different stance here, just a scotch. I agree with everything that these women have said, most importantly what Kathleen just said. From an early age, as soon as my kids could kind of talk and understand, I would tell them that when they did something bad to one of their brothers, because remember I have twins, that it was a thing called karma. And I feel like we have forgotten that. We pick people apart, we tear people down for things that we might not share with them, instead of celebrating the diversity that makes up this country. So for me, I know, being an educator, like I said, 4th through 9th, English and history, I know the benchmarks and the standards the state is teaching. Has nothing to do with gender association, has nothing to do with sexuality. None of that is taught in the school. My husband is a substitute teacher here for Perry. He has been this year and last year. It's not talked about, it's not taught. It shouldn't be. It is something that is personal. It is something that is unique to each individual. But at the same time, just like Kathleen said, it should never be shamed or met with disrespect because it's not that person's preference. The PSL program here talks about a peaceful environment for everyone at Perry. That means everyone, whether they share the same sexual orientation that you do or not. So what I would like to see is the same respect that our children have for one another be met with the adults in this community as well. Because as we move forward together, no matter what our differences are, like, I'm not a Browns fan any longer. Ooh, watch out. Now I am a Buckeyes fan, huge Buckeyes fan. Flags in my front yard all the time, and it's me hanging it up. Now, if you vote for Michigan, I mean, if that's who you root for, you probably don't like me. And that's okay. But it's the fact that we meet each other with respect. I'm not going to teach you that Ohio State is clearly better and that we are the better program. No, I'm going to be respectful of your choice of choosing that other team up north. Not to make light of it, but just to bring it to something that we can all think about. Instead of that political hot button issue that starts to tear us apart, instead of bringing us together. That's all I want to do, is bring us together and do it through our kids. It's more fun that way anyways. Thank you.
Hopefully this one isn't quite as controversial. All right, we're going to start with Candace this time. In light of recent challenges such as the pandemic and school shootings, what plans do you have to ensure the safety and well-being of students and staff in our schools? And this is submitted by one of our students. Candace?
All right, so pandemic, we learned, is that the pandemic and the school shooting? So two separate things. So one, pandemic is more health related. I think that we learned a lot about, one thing that, as a dentist, before COVID, I'd have patients come to the office for their appointments sick all the time. People would be coughing. I'd be like, you really can reschedule this. And I think after, during the pandemic, people realized that bringing your germs to school or bringing your germs into an office or bringing your germs in a workplace, calling in sick is okay. And so I think that we have learned that germs spread. You know, we wash our hands more, we wipe down surfaces more. And so with the pandemic, the schools have stepped up and done a great job keeping our schools clean. As far as school shootings, our SROs, I'm so happy we have those two in our schools, Old Valley and Zarebnik. They do a great job. I think that our kids are well trained. It's unfortunate they have to go through so much training, but those are the main things. But as a healthcare provider, I think that we have learned a lot through COVID, and we've grown. And I don't have anything else to say about that, so I'll turn over the time over to you guys.
Kathleen?
Thank you. So COVID, wow, that rocked our world in many ways. I think that the schools did a fantastic job of finding a great compromise. Our board did a wonderful job of meeting every family where they needed it. They had the option to stay home if that's what made you comfortable. They had the option to return if that's what made you comfortable. And you had the option to shift if that's what you needed to do. So my son actually started online that first semester back, and he was struggling. It just wasn't the best environment for him to learn in. And I encouraged him at the end of the semester to reach out to the principal and make those adjustments for himself and advocate for himself that he needed a different learning environment. But I was so glad that they had the opportunity and that every family really was respected in their differences and able to be met where they needed to be. So that's the COVID one. And then as far as school shootings, so I had the unfortunate opportunity to be teaching the day that Columbine happened. And so that was it was my first year of teaching. And it was something like we had never experienced before. And it was heart-wrenching and gut-wrenching to be in the classroom with those students and try to understand myself as an adult, what was going on, while the children were looking to me for that guidance and understanding. And so anything that we need to do to keep those students safe. I actually had Officer O'Valley reach out to me after a safety meeting because we had some safety issues and concerns with one of my children, and he called just to let me know that he's doing drive-bys when the students leave middle school, and not drive-by shootings. Back to the whole held up at work. He is riding along the path that the students are taking from school to home to ensure that our students are getting home safely at like 5 miles a day. So thank you very much.
Jennifer?
Okay, so first on the issue of COVID, this is something that personally our family made the honest reason to homeschool our twins. We had lost 5 different family members from COVID, including my beloved mother-in-law, and we had a 2-year-old. We were terrified like most of the world, and my husband stepped up and said, I'll work with K-12 and teach them from home. And our twins went to school reading. For kindergarten. He did an amazing job. And I will always be thankful for that because I had to pivot. I mean, I'm training people all across the country through Skype and through Teams and live. So as soon as I get off at 4:30, I'm picking up the books and doing Bob's books and sending Pete the cat to school. You appreciate even more so the teachers that you worked beside, 4th through 9th grade. I thought I had it hard. Talk about those littles. I mean, they're demanding. And when they never leave you and they're home with you all the time, they're even more demanding. The nice thing with that is that we bonded as a family. I was able to reach out to a previous board member at the time, Ashley Hacking, when we were trying to make our decisions of what were we going to do. And she told me all the amazing things the board had done with the additional funding from the state. certain atomizers, self-cleaning and self-working faucets, different air filters, HEPA filters. It was amazing. They always put your children first. So like I said, I'm not running an adversary against anyone on the board. I'm so utterly impressed. All I want to do is help them. Now with school shootings, this is something that unfortunately I have had the unfortunate incident to be present for a shooting that happened at the Menor Mall a few years back. Our twins were at Gymboree, and I was pregnant with their little brother, and we had to scoop them up and hide in the fire escape for over 40 minutes before they cleared the property. I've never been so terrified. I've done the drills with my students. I do the drill, active shooter drill at the Federal Building where I work downtown, and that's a new level of terrified. I worked overseas in 5 countries, including Bahrain, and I never had to do those drills. So I am thankful every day, and I make all 3 of my children thank Sergeant O'Malley and O'Malley every single day. And when they don't, I call them back. Thank you.
And Nicole is anticipating me.
I'm learning. So as far as COVID went, I was on the board for 1 month when COVID happened, and I feel that our board did everything we could to keep the kids in school as much as we could. That's another issue that I lost friends over because I made decisions that were unpopular at the time, but my number one thing was these kids could not be isolated. They could not be at home any longer. We had to do whatever it took to get them in school and with their peers. And that leads into the school shooting issue and school safety. We've done everything physically possible we can to keep our kids safe. But I've read extensively on school shootings. I've watched or listened to podcasts on it. I've studied it as much as I can. And the one thing that comes up is these kids are isolated. They're outcasts. They're not part of a group. So as far as the school, aside from all the safety measures, there's SROs and all the great things we do, we have so many opportunities for kids to be involved, whether it's the arts, theater, sports, academic clubs. There are so many ways, and we have so many good staff and faculty that are looking for these kids and finding a way to get them connected and connecting with them so that nobody feels isolated. Because from everything I've read and everything I've learned, that's where the problems start. And we can do everything we can to keep the kids safe, but we need to address the core of the problem. And I believe our schools do a phenomenal job at that. Thank you.
This is another question from a student. What is your stance on standardized testing such as the ACT? Do you think Perry would benefit from continuing practice for tests such as these? And we will begin with Kathleen.
So this is a hard one. The reason why standardized tests exist, and I will be the first to say that we assess students way too much. And the reason why I say we assess students way too much is because so much of that data is never acted on. I see this daily in what I do for a living. We collect data, we collect data, we collect data, but what do we do with it? And so as far as the ACT, the one thing that I would say about a standardized test such as that is it is meant to be a true measure of the knowledge that you've learned. So it's not taking into consideration extra credit, homework, and all these other aspects of behaviors of a student, but it truly is assessing their knowledge. And so while all of those things are important to assess, some standardized tests, as far as knowing truly what your students are able to do, are necessary. Again, what do we do with the data, which kind of leads to the second part of this question. We do an excellent job in Perry with our outcome-based or standard-based education in making sure that we know what the students know and where their weaknesses lie. And so with regard to doing any type of test preparation, that's the most important piece. Taking those practice exams, whether you like them or not, are going to help you identify, as well as the educators, identify where there's holes in your learning. And if they do identify those holes, that's where they're able to provide that support, that intervention, which is something actually I did at Perry for a year. I was an intervention provider for math intervention for K2 students. And looking at that data, analyzing that data is so important. And so I would say we can never do enough as far as test prep for our students for ACT, especially when you think about them getting into college and wanting to further themselves, whether it is college or whatever they choose to do. Thank you.
Nicole, can we have you be second?
I feel that standardized tests can have a purpose. I just feel like it's such a limited purpose. It's a snapshot in time. It's one day. It could be one bad day. So I think it can be used, again, as a tool, but I don't think we should put too much stock in what the testing says, because you only get a small glimpse. We can't measure what's going on with the child, what their aptitudes are that are not measurable on a standardized test. We don't know what they came to school with that day. We don't know what their day was like. As far as the ACT and college prep tests, I believe it's more individualized at this point. I know more and more colleges are going test optional, where you don't even have to submit your tests for college. So I feel that it's something we should offer to students that are interested in test prep for college, but I'm a big fan of the career readiness path, and I'm a big fan of all the things we're doing for kids who aren't on a college path, because we're seeing more and more kids go that way. So I think those things can't be measured on a standardized test either. You can't measure, what kids are learning and the valuable tools that they're learning. So if it's something that kids need and they're interested in, I feel it should be offered, but I think it's a good point of discussion going forward, and something we may need to adapt to with the current needs. Thank you.
Jennifer?
So I feel like the student who put this in is absolutely going to hate my answer, so I apologize, but I am a self-proclaimed nerd. I loved these tests when I was in school. Like I said, you're going to hate it, and I apologize. But I loved these because it allowed me to see my weaknesses and where I had to get better. I am someone who, and my husband will admit, I'm incredibly type A. I want to make sure that I can do my best first time out of the gate. I don't want to be guessing or missing. Remember, horrible in math. So I actually took both, ACT and the SAT. The only way I was getting to college was on scholarship money. I had to kind of take my best bet. Boston College and Loyola both wanted SATs. Those are not things that a lot of schools in Ohio at the time when I applied in 1999 actually took. We were ACT based. So Northwestern and Ashland, ACT. You kind of had to be two suited. Now, if you have a bad day, I understand that test anxiety more than anyone, believe me. But it allows you to see your strengths and your weaknesses and kind of make your decision. I didn't know at 18 what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer and work for the EPA. Still kind of kicked myself that I didn't do it, but that was my goal when I was 18. It changed a lot once I got into college, and I started to figure out who I was outside of that educational system. Now, they are beneficial in a metric standard. I do feel you learn who you are. You look at your strengths, you look at your weaknesses. You can make a decision if you wanted to go to trade school, if you wanted to be a plumber, work in HVAC, maybe you want to be a pilot or a mechanic. There are a lot of different choices. And right now, I think we so much have assumed for the last 10 years that you have to go to college or your life is over. And that's not what we live in any longer. We're missing tradespeople. We're missing actual hardworking individuals who don't have that piece of paper that some of us don't even use. I train adults now. 4th through 9th English education. I mean, think about it. I'm one of those people who has that piece of paper, but it didn't exactly sort where I needed to be. So I think it's a helpful source, but it's definitely not the only one. Thank you.
Candace.
So ACT prep is kind of my life with having 2 high schoolers and 1 in college. And as much as I want to say that it's not important, it is. ACTs are important, and the good thing is at Perry we have a great resource. Mr. Stavar does a phenomenal job. And so if there's any student that has taken the ACT and they didn't like their score, you send one quick email to Mr. Stavar and he will work with you, and I guarantee you'll raise your score. He is phenomenal, and he is a gifted educator that we have at our school. The greatest thing about being at Perry is that you can be involved in everything and anything. And that is what is almost more important than ACT. Right now, when you apply to colleges, sometimes it's test optional. You don't even have to do it. And that's some of your greatest colleges. But what is awesome is that they ask you for leadership, your involvement. And PSL, we have our PSL students here, so I'm kind of talking to you guys. It is so incredible, the experiences that you have with PSL. But my son just is applying to the Air Force Academy, and he just went through his interviews, and I wasn't supposed to be listening, but I was listening in his bedroom, and he didn't know, and he told the officer he wasn't listening, but it was incredible to listen to him talk about his leadership experiences that he's had at Perry. He doesn't hold necessarily a student council office, but as he talked about his relationships that he has with coaches and experiences, they were overwhelmed. And it's just a really, being at Perry, there's so many resources, but with the ACT, as much as you guys don't want to study for it, it is important. Start taking it when you're younger, but there are lots of pathways. College prep is not the only way, and I love that at Perry they have lots of different pathways. But yeah, doing well on that, but Mr. Staver, send him an email. He'll help you out.
In order to help me, we're going to start this time with Kathleen and go down the row so I don't get confused. And somebody was prepared. This was specifically for Nicole, but I would like everyone to answer it. In May, the Board of Education voted unanimously to give Dr. Jack Thompson a new 3-year contract. As a current board member, explain why a 3-year contract was given when a federal lawsuit was pending against Dr. Thompson and others with serious allegations. So we will still begin with Kathleen, and we will go down the row, and each of you talk about that issue.
So I don't know anything about a lawsuit pending against Jack Thompson. What I can say is that my husband has served on his Business Advisory Council board, and he does amazing things to lead this district. I have a lot of respect for him as well as many of the other leaders within our district. And what I can say is a lot of times, and I will let Nikki speak to this because she is on the board, so I'm assuming she knows more about this than me. But what I can say is a lot of times there are rumors that escalate through the community and rumors that go through, and it's not always based on fact. And sometimes you need to get to the basis of the facts. And I'm not saying there was not a lawsuit. I'm saying I'm not aware if there was. If there was, I'm assuming that everything came out in the clear. And what I will say with regards to a 3-year contract is, again, going back to when we have leaders in our district, whether it be high school principals, when we have educators that are excellent, we want to retain that talent. Jack is very familiar with our Perry Power Plant funding, and we are one of only 2 districts in the state of Ohio that are funded by Perry Plant funds. And I know that he is an advocate for us that goes to the state and has kept us out of that deficit spending by advocating for our district to continue to get those funds. So as far as retaining talent and retaining leadership in this district, I would say it's very important to stick with people who we know their background, we know what they have done for our community, and to continue to advocate to support those people. Thank you.
So like Kathleen said, I don't have any information as to any potential lawsuit with Jack or anything regarding to his contract. What I can say is I do work with him on the Perry Foundation board. I was selected for that. My term officially starts in January. I was selected in March since Rick was retiring. And I have found nothing but him to be pleasant, helpful, and pure Perry. I mean, from bone to, eye patch on the pirate joke. But what I would say is I don't have that information. So especially in my position, I do a lot of federal regulation review, federal law review, code of federal regulations, if any of you are still awake and not asleep. Without having all that background information, I really don't want to speak to that. But what I will say, dealing with Jack, especially as a concerned parent, both he and Betty Jo Machewski, anytime I've ever called them, they've dropped exactly what they're doing to talk to me as that concerned parent. I mean, my name's not on the building. I'm not, a local, like an Osborne or a Sign. So I feel like there's no real reason for them to do that other than the fact that they care about our community. You always want to retain someone who cares about your community. Obviously, if I knew what was behind this information or any of that, it could also sway my answer. But I will say that from what I've seen, Jack is pirate through and through.
Yeah, that's a tough question for us that's not on the board. I think that, as a school board member, our job is to hire the superintendent, the CFO. So I think that as a board member, I will take that job very seriously. We evaluate them, and I would take that very seriously. So I can't speak on behalf of the evaluation that was done previously and if it warranted a 3% raise or not. But I would take that job. I would do my due diligence and hold him accountable. I have heard about the lawsuit, and so speaking of that, I think it's important that all workers, our employees, are comfortable and feel like they have the equal rights to their male counterparts, that they feel like the opportunities they have, they're not held because they're a female. And I think that was a sexual discrimination lawsuit. I don't know if where it's at or if it's where it's at on court, like where it's at, but I just feel like, as anyone in our school district, if you're we should never be held by religion or gender, your cultural background, your socioeconomics. Nothing should be discriminatory in our school district. And so I'm sure legal's handling things, and I'm sure our school board is doing a great job with it. So we'll leave it to Nikki to fill us all in.
Wow. So, as I said before, I'm an individual board member and can only speak for myself. I am not authorized to speak on behalf of the board. This would have been a great question to come to a board meeting with, to come to address the board with, to call Dr. Thompson about, to call any board member about. Publicly speaking, I cannot speak to the lawsuit. I am not obligated to, and I cannot. As far as giving Dr. Jack Thompson a new 3-year contract, we gave him a 3-year contract because he's good at his job. His evaluations, I don't believe I can even speak to his evaluations because there's privacy laws with employees and things like that. However, I would say personally, speaking for myself, I believe that Jack Thompson has the best interests of the district at heart at all times. I believe he operates in good faith. I believe that if anything, his heart is probably a little too big sometimes, and that's one of my criticisms with him, that is we should be a little bit harder, but he's not. But he has a great amount of knowledge, relationships with advocating for our school at the state level with TPP funding and other things like that. There's constant trips to the Columbus to advocate for our district on behalf of our district, not only with funding, but for other school-related issues. He has great relationships and is greatly respected within the community and within other communities within Lake County. I'm confident with him as being our superintendent, and I'm happy that my children go to school with him as a superintendent because I know he cares. And I know he does a good job, and he works hard for what's best for all of the kids.
Don't go too far.
Okay. No? We kind of talked about this.
Yeah, we did. We talked
Oh,
about
did I
that.
grab two?
Okay.
There might be another one behind it. No.
It's blank. I'll take you off the hook. Oh, this is for you too.
Oh, yay me. It should be a fun one.
Why is the district creating new administrative positions at a time that 6 teachers retired and there were no hires to replace them?
So we actually had 9 teachers retire. We have a declining student enrollment. Our average district faculty to student to teacher ratio or kid to adult ratio is 15-1. Now I know that that's just a glimpse, and some are bigger and some are smaller, but that's the average. Our largest class sizes, I believe, at the elementary school are like 21 students at this time. So I don't believe that necessitates hiring more teachers if we're speaking of being fiscally responsible. However, as I mentioned earlier, our student population is changing. Our poverty rate's higher. We have more students with more significant needs. A lot of it coming after COVID. Kids have not bounced back. Not as much as we would have hoped, and they have more needs. So adding an administrative position, which we didn't hire anyone from the outside, it was an internal move for someone into a position that we used to have in the district and we just brought back. That is to support teachers and kids, to do what we can. Anyone who's taught in a classroom knows that if you have one kid that's really struggling, what that can do to your classroom. Now we have administrators there who are able to address that need, who are able to talk to the parents about their concerns. all of this is done to serve kids. So it may look like we hired, we cut 6 teachers and there's no one, and we're leaving teachers out on their own. We are doing what we can to support teachers. We are doing what we can to give them the tools and resources they need so that they can teach and the kids are getting the services they need. And I feel like that's the most important thing, that we are addressing kids, meeting them where they need or where they are, and filling all of their needs. Thank you.
I just always want to make sure our teachers know that they're loved, appreciated, that they know that we're supporting them, that the class sizes remain small at Perry. That's the most important thing to me. Knowing that our elementary classes are small, that the class offerings are offered at the high school and our middle school is all under control. That's the most important thing. And so as far as administration, I know that they've increased by 20%, and as long as our finances can support it, then that's fine, but it's just kind of mixed messaging to increase our administration while we're decreasing our teachers. But if our teachers are feeling like they are being heard, that they have the resources that they need, then, and our class sizes are not too large, then absolutely, then we didn't need to rehire those teachers. But if we felt like that was not the case, then I feel like then we need to rehire, and that we shouldn't be top heavy. We gotta make sure that our classes remain small, that our teachers are receiving all the resources that they need to teach.
From someone who's not on the board and who tries to stay out of that as much as possible since it's not my reign yet, I believe I know the administrator that we're talking about. There was someone who was already on the Perry payroll. It wasn't really a change in anything other than position and duty. And it was done so to help the children in the building. Speaking for myself as an educator, when I had 4th through 9th grade, there were a lot of times where during my planning period, I would assist other teachers, especially those where you might have a student who might be struggling or needing a little additional help, that you can actually work one-on-one with them. This administrator, if it's who I'm thinking of, is exactly that type of person. She will sit down with any individual, any grade, and immediately jump in. How can I help you? Asking the teacher, asking the child what they need, and really engaging with them. So if anything, it's a plus for the district. It's not a loss. I mean, teachers are bound to retire. I'm hoping one day Social Security will be there so I can. I'm not betting on it. But what I'm looking at just from a government employee is the fact that you do lose talent at one point, because they do want to enjoy traveling and not getting up at 4:30 in the morning, again, speaking for myself. But there's a point where they retire out and we don't have the student body to support it. If all we're asking for is fiscal responsibility, 9 minus 1 still means we're paying 8 less people. So just, again, from someone who thinks it's the right person that we're talking about, but not exactly sure. The other administration change that I think from is because we lost someone who was incredibly important to my children in the special education program with their IEP for speech. There was an opening there that someone else slid to, and then this position changed administratively. Both of those people I love dearly and I miss. One of them was someone who I was just so happy that she got to retire. But overall, like I said, it's still better for our budget. It's less money out where we don't need it. And then we can save that for when all these people come back into Perry because of all that great economic development that the trustees mentioned and that I want to partner with to fill out those paychecks later.
So with regards to, again, administrative decisions and where positions are placed and who is hired, this again is not, aside from the CFO and the superintendent, that is not within the realm of what the board does. They do not hire additional administrators. They do not make staffing decisions. They do approve them at the recommendation of the superintendent, but they do not actually make those moves. With regard to just, again, having been a teacher in a classroom and knowing with COVID and the struggles, and as we've talked about some of these matters that didn't matter back when we were children, there are increasing challenges in the classroom that I see every day from my daughter or from weekly, from going in and volunteering, attending field trips, from coaching in various aspects. I see the struggles that teachers are tasked with now, and they need that additional support. I will say that one thing that, again, to reiterate Nikki's point, this would be a great question to bring to a board meeting where you can speak to the people who have control over decisions like this. And I am going to go back to things like this where people, you're absolutely allowed to have your own opinion. I wish that people would seek out facts. I have recently been the victim of somebody reaching out to the superintendent via email based on a rumor about my student questioning fiscal responsibility of the district, and it happens to be one of the candidates here that is running for school board. I'm very disappointed to find out that in the guise of fiscal responsibility, several professionals that I value relationships with were also called into question. And again, if we have these concerns, those individuals should be taking them to the board and not taking them and spreading rumors around our community. Thank you.
Okay, it's about 8:35, and it will take about 10 minutes to get through the next question. And I know the library closes at 9, so this will be the last question. And I'll be very careful. And we will go again from, well, yeah, Kathleen will be first. Sorry, Kathleen, you just sat down. Okay. Can you outline your approach to addressing and promoting diversity, equality, and inclusion within our school district? From a student.
Excellent. And I will say, I know that I dropped a bomb there at the end of my question. This is something that I'm very passionate about and concerned about as far as privacy and my own student being called into question. So I do have copies of that email. If anyone would like to approach me afterwards, I can give that to you in the lobby. As far as diversity, equity, inclusion, I go back to my answer about accepting others. We need to teach our students to be accepting of others who are not like them. I love what Jennifer said about if you don't like me, you don't have to like me. But we do have to treat each other with respect. And going back to, we can't expect our children to be respectful if we as adults are not respectful, transparent, and if we want to hold people accountable, we do it the right way. And so with that, I say, yes, diversity, equity, and inclusion, not in a curriculum, not promoted as far as the hot button political issues I'm talking about. I'm speaking about respect for others, kindness to human beings, and treating others as you would want to be treated. Thank you.
Okay, so I absolutely love this question. I was actually approached by the Lake County NAACP to talk about points of DEI and SEI education. Now, sorry if, but I'm a nerd and I love that. So 2 things of education, DEI and SEI, are really focusing on the diversity, the equality, and the individual, that every one of us is behind, maybe if we're a banker, a lawyer, candlestick maker, whatever one of those you want to talk about. There's more to us than just our job, our career, and where we live. There's a whole bunch of special important stuff that makes us who we are. And by sharing that, one of my 7.5-year-old twins started a crystal club last week with Mrs. Loveland. He was so excited to tell me about it because I used to collect crystals as a kid. He also tells people I'm a witch. So if you hear that, I'm sorry. My child just thinks that because he sees crystals. I totally apologize. I promise I'm not. But he was so excited to be able to share that with other kids in his PII classroom. I never had a crystal club when I was a kid. Are you kidding? I was just the weird kid that picked up rocks to all the kids that I went to school with. We are doing something here at Perry that is what I learned about back at Youngstown State. Well, I could only go for 2.5 years, but I got my bachelor's degree in 2.5 years. So I rocked that, magna cum laude. And I managed to do that with my special ed students. That's what I was going to get my master's for, but I ran out of money. It's a really bad problem. But anyway, DEI, diversity, education, and equality is something that we strive for. And we already do it here at Perry. We do it through PEEPS and through PSL. And I love the fact that my kindergartner comes home, because he has it on Mondays, and I say, Connor, how was your day? And as soon as he gets in the car, he goes, awesome, awesome. And I said, what'd you do at Peeps? And he can tell me. He's 5. The kid's like a steel trap. If they can do that at 5, I can do it at 42. There's a way to do this, and not have it be divisive, and we're already doing it. We just need to expand upon it. We need to get all of the adults in the room to do it too. That's why I do advocacy, partnership, and responsibility. Thank you.
We really, really do a good job with teaching this in our schools. I'm active with our Boy Scouts of America, our Troop 71 here in Perry. My boys are working on their Eagle Scout. I have 2 Eagle Scouts. I have 2 more that are working on right now. They have 1 more merit badge that they're working on, and it's a brand new one. It's called Citizenship and Community. And there's not, because it's so new, we actually have to work with a merit badge counselor in California. And why I'm telling you this story is we have a girls troop and we have a boys troop in Perry here. And the girls troop worked with this merit badge counselor before my boys did. And it's all about this same topic that we're talking about: inclusion, acceptance, diversity. And she was so impressed with our girls troop, and they're all students at Perry High School, and she couldn't believe how the questions that they raised, how well spoken they were, the experiences they had, and it goes back to being that we're so accepting in our schools. My sons are working on it right now. They are not as talkative as the girls troop, she says, but she is very impressed. And so when you have people from a different area, and as she was talking about, she was just so, the maturity, their experiences, she was very, very, very highly impressed with our students here.
So I feel that all students should be treated with respect and equally, and treated fairly. And like I said in my opening, no one should be treated different than anyone else based on any other reason. I also feel that we've gotten to a point where we want people to validate us so much, and we need to get back to a place where we're happy with who we are, where we don't seek that outside validation. Last year we had a speaker come into the school, Brooks Gibbs, who talked to the kids. It was from a kind of anti-bullying thing of being confident in who you are, being comfortable with who you are. If somebody says something to you, who cares? I don't care what your opinion of me is. I know who I am, and I'm happy with who I am. I feel like that's a great approach for kids to learn. I feel like if I had learned that when I was a teenager or a kid, I would have lived a much happier life, because it took me a lot longer to realize that I don't necessarily need you to like me. I don't need you to approve of my decisions. I don't need you to tell me that I'm good at what I do. I know who I am, and I'm comfortable with who I am. So I think it's important for us to approach from that way, to teach kids to be comfortable with who you are, to know who you are, and yeah, there's some people who are better than you at some things, and there's some people that are worse than you at some things, and that's okay. Just be comfortable with who you are, be comfortable in your own skin, have people that you know that you can talk to if you need help, and move forward in a way where you just develop a level of resilience that will propel you through life in the happiest way you can. Thank you.
I would like to thank everyone who came tonight. I would like to thank, again, the Perry Library for asking us to do this, the candidates for giving up their evening and going through the stress of this evening with the questioning. And I would like to especially thank the audience for being here to learn about your candidates and with the respect that you showed to them and to me. You've all made it a very easy night for me, and I appreciate that. Early voting has begun. If you want an absentee ballot, you need to apply for that very soon. The deadline is sooner than it has been in the past. And if you choose to vote in person, remember to vote on November 7th. Thank you very much, and have a safe drive home.